Hello learners. Today we are going to discuss about gendered poverty under the unit Gender Inequality and Other Social Dimensions. I am Dr. Hemanto Borman discussing gendered poverty. So let us begin with the topic poverty. What does poverty mean? Poverty is basically inadequate income or food or education or be in a poor health or lack of freedom. Broadly, if we combine all these things, poverty means lack of well-being in terms of capabilities. There are various measures of poverty. One such universally accepted measure is the measure by World Bank, which says that if a person fails to earn US $3 per person per day in terms of purchasing power parity, we call that particular person under poverty. In Poverty, Prosperity and Plan report in 2024 by the World Bank estimates that globally 8.5% of the population lives in extreme poverty. Out of this 8.5% population, 65% alone live in sub-Saharan Africa. In India too, 5.25% of the population, that comes approximately about 75 million, lives in extreme poverty. Now, the topic gender. So gender, what is gender? Gender is an identity based on perceived and actual differences between sexes. So it is basically an identity based on the perceived and actual differences between different sexes. So gender includes different norms, behaviors, and roles associated with being a woman or man or their relationship with each other. There are broader dimensions of gender. In addition to men and women, this includes LGBTQ. However, for today's discussion, we will confine ourselves with men and women, as discussion on LGBTQ is beyond the scope of the present lecture. Understanding gender is important, is crucial, as it has various and societal implications, including gendered inequality. Now, combining these two terms, that is gendered poverty, which is also termed as feminization of poverty, that is synonymously, these two terms are synonymously used, that is gendered poverty and feminization of poverty, is first coined by Diana Pierce in 1978. The basic highlights of the term is based on that female-headed families are poorer and the proportion of adults that are under poverty are disproportionately tilted towards women, or in a sense women who are poor are being steadily increasing. So basically what the basic idea of feminization is, women are disproportionately affected by poverty and women are compared to men have higher incidence of poverty. Similarly, poverty among women is more severe compared to men. And moreover, it is noted or it is highlighted in various studies that incidence of poverty among women is increasing as compared to men. There are two types of poverty we can define in the context of feminization of poverty. One is transitory poverty and the other one is structural poverty. Transitory poverty, it is a poverty that comes out of some random shock arising out of economic emergencies. These economic emergencies might occur as a consequence of natural disasters such as flood, drought, or any other natural calamities. Secondly, there might be disease which may also impose some shock which may lead some individual or some push some individuals into poverty. Similarly, there are social ceremonies or obligations that may also inflict some random shock to a particular individual or a particular family that may push that particular individual or family into poverty. The other type of poverty is structural poverty. The structural poverty is structural in nature. It arises out of unfair social or societal arrangement for women. We know that women are most of the time have unfair distribution of resources and other things. So women are perennially subjected to gender inequality. So these structural cause also results in poverty, which comes under the structural poverty in nature. Gender inequality in resources, education, and social norms are main reasons for this structural poverty among women. Now, let us talk about the basic causes of feminization or gendered poverty. The first and foremost, the important cause is education. Women have unequal access to education. It is estimated that 2/3 of the adults who are without basic literacy skills are women. That means almost 67% of those persons who do not have basic literacy skills are women. These inaccessibility in education may be a result of poverty, geographical isolation, social norms, early marriage and pregnancy, gender-based violation, and traditional attitudes towards women, which prevents women from fulfilling their rights to participate and complete education. Although there has been issues of women not able to get education, school enrollment ratios across nations are converging, but it is important to note that completion rates for female are lower as compared to their male counterparts. Similarly, gender parity in education widens for secondary and tertiary education. So this is also important to note that although there has been improvement in educational attainment among women, these educational attainment confined to primary education, but for secondary and tertiary educations, the gender parity is still a distant dream. The second basic cause of feminization of poverty is employment. As discussed in the earlier cause, that is the poor education, because of the poor education, as a consequence, women have limited employment opportunities. Because low quality education always results in low quality jobs, low paid jobs, or insecure jobs. Global labor force participation rate for women is 47% as compared to 72% of men. So what is labor force participation? Labor force participation rate means that adults who are either employed or actively seeking for employment. That indicates that out of 100 women, only 47% are either employed or looking for some job. That is, the remaining portion is not looking for any job. That is, they are not participating in the labor force. Whereas that percentage is 72 for men, far higher than what women has. Moreover, women does invisible labor, which are mostly unpaid in nature. These invisible labor this invisible labor includes cooking at home, cleaning job, looking after the elderly and young. All these jobs mostly are invisible natures because they are unpaid, and women does all these jobs mostly. Devoting most or more time in invisible labor limits their ability or limits women's ability or time for paid work and their career progressions. It also reduces their productivity as they had to perform this invisible work for their family. Moreover, women are denied maternity leave and menstrual leave in many cases. This again affects women in their employment opportunities. As a result of all these things, women suffers a widespread wage gap. Women worldwide still earn 20% less than men, and only 28% of all the managerial positions are held by women. So, after education, employment is another cause or main cause which contributing to the feminization of the poverty. The third important cause is violence. According to World Health Organization, 30% of women are subjected to either physical or sexual violence in their lifetime. That means 1 in every 3 women are subjected to these kind of violences in their lifetime. So these violences have significant negative impact on their physical and mental health. Also, it negatively or adversely affect their social and economic fabrics of the economy. Because of this violence, women are unable to work, in many cases, they have to lose the job because they have to give up the job because of this violence. As a result, they lose their income. They cannot participate in regular activities. And as a result, they have limited economic opportunity, affecting the female or affecting the women, pushing her into the poverty. So these cause a vicious trap of poor education, insecure job, physical and sexual abuse, and then again loss of job and poverty. So this cause a vicious trap of these factors and feminization of the poverty. Therefore, empowering women is important and crucial for giving them more employment and income opportunities. Subsequently, the next cause of poverty is lack of empowerment. Empowering women is to acquire a greater voice for women. Empowering women refers self-reliance, contribution to the family and society, crucial decision-making ability, equal and dignified participation in all activities of the society. According to International Labour Organization, women empowerment is to promote equal position of women through various steps. These includes participate equally in all societal activities and decision making at all levels. Women should have equal access and control over resources. Women should be equally and respectfully treated in all working conditions. The ILO also highlights that we must have to change in certain norms in laws, in education, in political participation, and violence against women that often subordinates women to men. To frame this sentence in other words, that certain norms which subordinates or which views women as a subordinate to men must be changed. These norms might be in the laws, might be in the educational attainment, in the political participation, or in any other dimensions of the society. So these norms has to be changed. In addition, there is an important aspect, that is men has to be aware about the gender equality, the importance of women in our society. The Indian government has also introduced various acts and various policies which can prohibit violence against the women and also empower them. To mention a few of them is the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Readdressal Act 2013, the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2006, the Dowry Prohibition Act 1961, Women Reservation Act 2023, etc. The next two causes of feminization of poverty are lack of assets and climate change. So lack of assets. So women are perennially, structurally denied right to land, property, or any other economic resources. So this is a structural framework that women are being denied of resources. So without right to resources, women have limited influence in their household decision making and no recourse to the assets during crisis. So lack of assets is another cause of feminization of poverty. Similarly, climate change has become a crucial factor in contributing feminization of poverty. Climate change is crucial because women mostly responsible for many household work. In many communities, women mostly responsible for collecting household water supply, energy for cooking, heating, and sometimes for food security as well. They are also engaging in subsistence farming, particularly horticulture, poultry, and raising small livestock. As we know, that climate change adversely impacts these activities. And essentially, this affects women disproportionately, which contributes feminization of poverty. Now, after discussing what is feminization of poverty, then the causes of feminization of or then gendered poverty, the next topic that we should learn is the measurement issues in feminization of poverty. So, feminization of poverty is a subjective issue. So, it is clearly difficult to measure feminization of poverty. The first difficulty is the unit of measurement. In most measure of poverty, household is proxied as the unit of measurement. So therefore, once household is proxied, the individual dimensions are neglected, where women has more individual dimensions as compared to men. Similarly, there is a lack of disaggregated data for gender for women. That means lack of gender disaggregated data. Moreover, homogeneous definition and assumptions often neglects the crucial dimensions for women. These dimensions include issues like menstrual, maternity, which affects women due to their biological construct, where women do not suffer these kind of issues. So homogeneous definition for men and women may not be sufficiently address the topic like feminization of poverty. Moreover, monetary and income measures of poverty is not adequate, as feminization of poverty is not about lack of income, but it includes many other dimensions. So, despite having these issues, there are approaches to capture feminization of poverty. One such approach is Gender Development Index that was introduced in 1995. The Gender Development Index measures gender inequalities in 3 dimensions of human development. One is health, which is measured by female and male life expectancy at birth. Second is the education, which measures by female and male expected years of schooling for children and female and male mean years of schooling for adults aged 25 years and older. The third dimension is the command of our economic resources, measured by female and male estimated earned income. The Gender Development Index is simply the ratio of female human development index to male human development index of a particular country. The second approach that attempts to capture feminization of poverty is Gender Inequality Index that was introduced in 2010 Human Development Report. Gender Inequality Index reflects gender-based disadvantage in 3 dimensions. These are reproductive health, empowerment of women, and labor market participation. It also as a relative measure of attainment of women in terms of their male counterparts. The third approach to capture feminization of poverty is Gender Empowerment Measure that was introduced also in 1995. Gendered Empowerment Measure captures inequalities in opportunities between men and women using 3 steps. The first step is the percentage of female and males are calculated in each of the following areas. Area 1, number of parliamentary seats. Number 2 has 2 dimensions, that is legislators, senior officials and managers. Number 2 has the second dimension, the professionals and technical positions. And number 3 is the estimated earned income at purchasing power parity US dollar. In step 2, for each area, the pair of percentages is combined into an equally distributed equivalent percentage. The mean of the 2 components as a means to reward gender equality and penalize inequality. In the third step, GEM is estimated as the unweighted average of all these equally distributed equivalent percentages. So this is the third measures that attempts to capture gender dimension or feminization of poverty. There are global agendas, global framework as well, which attempts to improve or attempts to bring about the issues of women empowerment. This includes the Millennium Development Goal. The Millennium Development Goal highlights that developing countries as a whole eliminated gender disparity in primary, secondary, and tertiary education. Globally, about 3/4 of working age men participate in the labor force. However, this is about half for working age women. So there is something to be done. Women make about 41% of the paid workers outside the agriculture, and increase that has been increased from 35%. That means there has been some improvement, but this is not enough. Thirdly, the proportion of women in parliament has also nearly doubled over the past 20 years, clearly showing some improvement in women empowerment. However, women continues to experience significant gap in terms of poverty, labor market, and wage, as well as participation in private as well as public decision making. So there has to be a lot to be done in empowering women, despite some improvement in the past several decades. In another global framework, that is the Sustainable Development Goal, which also calls for urgent attention for achieving gender equality and empowering all women. To ensure gender equality, the Sustainable Development Goal outlines several targets and indicators to measure their achievement. These targets include end all forms of discrimination and violence against women, recognize and value unpaid care work and domestic work performed by women, participation and equal opportunities for leadership at all levels of society. Another target highlights to ensure universal access to sexual and reproductive health as rights to women. It also targets to have equal rights for economic resources, ownership, and control over land. That means women should also get equal rights along with men for all economic resources, ownership, and control over land, which has been structurally denied to women across all societies in the world. At last, adopt policies and legislation for the promotion and gender equality in the society. In summary, what is feminization of poverty? Feminization of poverty or gendered poverty, which are being used synonymously as I have said, is disproportionate impact on women, a higher incidence of poverty among women, severity, and increasing trends of poverty among women. What are the important factors of feminization of poverty? It is education, that is lack of education, lack of employment, lack of assets, empowerment, sexual violence, and climate change. What are the challenges in measurement of feminization of poverty or gendered poverty? The most important is the data gap. Moreover, the primary focus or main focus of the poverty estimation so far is the household, that is household being measured as the unit. So the individual subjective approach or individual subjective dimensions are being neglected. The present estimates of poverty focuses on monetary or income measures. However, measuring women or feminization of poverty should go beyond the monetary or income dimensions. It has to be subjective in nature, as because of issues and biological construct, women are different from that of men. There are some indices that tries to capture feminization of poverty. This includes gender inequality index, gender development index, gender empowerment measures. However, these indices or measures mostly rely on comparing gaps between men and women rather than measuring absolute deprivation. International frameworks such as the UN's Millennium Development Goals and Sustainable Development Goals explicitly call for urgent action to achieve gender equality. So that is what we had to discuss under this module. Thank you.